Haman Nature, a journey in search of a peaceful and prosperous society with human nature as a guide. Led by your host, Adam Haman.
Hello and welcome to Haman Nature. I am Adam Haman. With me as always, my buddy Tyrone. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm feeling in a list sort of mood. You know how you see all those YouTube videos, top 10 blah, blah, blahs. All right, we're going to do a list episode, Adam.
Beginning of year, end of year, people just love lists.
They sure do. They sure do. So we are recording this days before Trump's inauguration, part 2. But Trump, during this campaign, made a lot of claims or promises or things he would do on day one. And folks, a little preview. Be sure to tune in for our first ever live stream to celebrate our 100th episode coming up very soon, which we'll do after the inauguration, maybe a week or so after, and we'll see how many of these day one things Trump was able to accomplish. But
let me
go ahead.
Yeah, let me just make sure people understand we're recording this on January 4th, a couple of weeks before the inauguration, just in case in this crazy, insane world something truly barbaric and awful occurs between now and then, because the man has enemies.
Yeah. It's not too late. Remember my final predictions right before the election, the episode we had with Scott Horton and Angela McArdle, and we all gave our predictions. I said Trump would not be seated as president. I didn't say he wouldn't win the election.
That's true.
So I still got 2 weeks for my faith in the deep state to
honestly, buddy, if you can't put your trust in the deep state,
what can you trust? What can you put your faith in? But really, so we're going to go through some of the things in this episode what Trump said he was going to do. But really, it's not just so much of recapping a list of stuff he said. I want to get into some of the economic policies that he, quote unquote, put forward. And, we're happy that the Democrats lost. Again, guys, we're libertarians. We're not Republicans or Democrats. But we really don't like the left more than we don't like the right, if what I just said made any sense. So I think we were happy that Kamala Harris didn't win. But at the same time, doesn't mean we are big rah-rah Trump supporters. So now let's begin our 4-year criticism of the Trump movement.
Yes, since you brought that up, we are libertarians and we don't like Democrats or Republicans, but it does happen to be the case that the Democrats in particular do seem to be on the more insane. They've gone a little bit insane over the last couple of decades. And if Nikki Haley had been running against Kamala Harris or Joe Biden, I wouldn't really care who won at all. I believe both of those are puppets to the regime. Whereas the best thing about Trump is that he does at least listen to libertarians a little bit, and he does not seem to be part of the regime. He's not part of the deep state. That's why they hate him. He still is terrible in a whole handful of ways, and I'm sure we'll discuss that. But it's a distinction worth making.
Because remember, we're anti-statists, right? And left, right, Republican, Democrat, deep state, whatever you want to call it, they're all libertarians have said there's really no 10-cent difference between the Republicans or the Democrats, right? So they're all part of the same machine. So the point that you're making that Trump is a bit outside of that machine, it is a good point to make. So
before you get to the list, I just want to talk about Trump really briefly. He isn't part of the deep state, but he is sort of a reflexive statist. Or at least he was in 2016. And I just want to tell one quick anecdote. I don't think it's apocryphal. I think it's true. Early in his first presidency, 2016, 2017, somebody was making waves. The issue of civil asset forfeiture was bubbled up from the populace to his attention. And according to the people in the room, he had no idea what it was. He didn't know what civil asset forfeiture was. And then when it was explained to him, where the cops can just take your property and not even charge you with a crime. I assume people who watch the show know what civil asset forfeiture is.
I would hope so.
Anyway, when somebody said, yeah, it's where the cops can just suspect somebody of something without any reason whatsoever, not charge them with a crime, take their money or their house or their car, and then the person has to go to court to sue the government to try and get it back and prove that their property was innocent, however you would do something like that. So anyway, somebody tells them what it is, and Trump says, why would anybody be against that? So I think things have changed in the last 7 or 8 years. I don't think Trump is just going to sort of reflexively trust the cops or the FBI, say, or the government. But early on, he was just a very reflexive statist. He just didn't happen to be captured by the deep state. So we hope things are better now, but who knows?
Yeah. So I did pull a couple of articles, and we'll put some links in the description here. But the article I'm going to kind of base the list on is from PBS News. The article was dated August 7th, so it's a little bit older, but it lists 24 things Donald Trump is promising to do. So I figured that was a long enough list. However, remind me, when was the Libertarian National Convention?
May.
Okay, so in all the list, so I found a lot of different these articles, list of this, list of that, things that Trump said he would do. On none of these lists anywhere that any of the mainstream media is paying attention to is that thing that you've got in your background there. So yeah. So let's start with that one. Trump said on day one he's gonna free Ross.
Yeah, free Ross Ulbricht. I have high hopes that he's going to follow through with this. He has repeated that claim not only in front of us in D.C. at our national convention, but in many other places as well. A whole bunch of people that I know are surrounding his team are on board with that. And I think it's telling that the mainstream legacy corporate media doesn't want to include that, most of them, because then they would probably have to say a little bit about who this person is and why the government threw 2 life sentences plus 40 years on top of him for creating a website. Seems weird. Seems like you might have follow-up questions that might make you question the honesty and integrity of your dear leaders.
That's beyond civil asset forfeiture.
Right.
That's just civil forfeiture.
I've forfeited my body.
All right, Adam. I don't want to make this an 8-hour long episode, so I'm going to kind of go through this list a little bit rapid fire, get your immediate reaction, pro, con, thumbs up, thumbs down, however you want to go, give a couple 30-second opinion about each of these. So how about on day one, we will begin the largest. Wait, I'm now sounding like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is president?
I am terrible at impressions. Let me get in Trump mode. Huge. It's gonna be huge. No, I can't do it. It's just on day one, we will begin the largest deportation operation in American history. It's always the biggest, the best,
the biggest,
the largest in history. All right. What's your immediate reaction to that?
Well, he said a lot of different things in regards to immigration. It's not always consistent, depending on just what comes spinning out of his brain when he's talking to those huge crowds at all those rallies. But it does have to do with promising to end the flood of immigrants that are coming in. It's been a breakneck speed during the Biden presidency, and deport a whole millions of people who are already here. if his first administration is any clue or any guide, he is not going to follow through on the most excessive of the claims that he made. I don't know what he actually will do, and I have mixed feelings about the issue.
Right.
We'd have to do an entire episode to get through everything I have to think about. Government borders and government immigration policy. I don't think there should be a government. I think there should be nothing but private property, and owners decide who comes and goes in freedom of association. But since we're living in this weird situation, I don't want anybody to be able to come in here and get welfare and vote to take away my things. We have a big problem with immigration. Something has to be done. I hope that if he is going to deport people, he finds these Venezuelan, Colombian gangs that are doing all these crimes and gets them first.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing people who have come here from some areas in the Middle East who don't want anything to do with the American system of, the American dream, the American Republic, our system of laws, and want to completely replace that. I wouldn't mind if they weren't here. I want neighbors that generally believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if you're on board with that and you're paying your own way, I'm very welcome to have you here. We gain from immigration. I think that's obvious. But what we have been getting the last 4 years at least, and maybe beyond, isn't natural organic immigration, people coming to better themselves. We've been getting some sort of a grift and a nefarious one. And I don't know. I doubt Trump is going to be able to handle this well, because his lever is the government, and it's a terrible institution. But I got to assume it's going to be better than what we were having under Biden. I hope. Fingers crossed. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, so Ann Coulter, I forget. I'm blanking on the name of the podcast she was just on. It was one that Trump did during the campaign. It's doesn't matter. And she and they asked her about, because her number one issue and the reason why she stopped supporting Trump after the first term was because he didn't follow through on his building the wall thing that he promised. And that was her number one issue. She's back on board the Trump train a bit. But she was asked, let's talk about immigration and what about the Dreamers? They were specifically talking about them. And Ann Coulter's like, they got to be the first to go. I want them the first to be out of here. So now that Trump came, a couple weeks ago saying on 60 Minutes, I can't remember which interview it was. He said, I think we should, allow the Dreamers to stay and find some way. So I bet she's off the Trump train. but I'm glad he said that, because two wrongs don't make a right, in my opinion. Right. If we could go back in time and stop that illegal immigration from happening in the first place, and again, if we could go back in time and reorganize everything in every way, we wouldn't even having this conversation. But now that they're here, they're integrated into society. Many of them don't speak anything but English. They've never known anything but here. At some point, to me, all of human history is basically a statute of limitations thing. It's like, okay, when the Pilgrims and Columbus and all the colonialists or whoever came to North America and displaced the native population, I don't think that was a good thing. I would be against that. But now, fast forward 500 years or whatever it is, it's like too much time has passed. Things have changed. The population has shifted. So you can say a bad thing happened in the past. That's over. It's too late to correct that. Right?
I agree. And I don't want these people. I don't want anybody who's here just working their job, not breaking any laws, paying their own way. I don't want any of those people deported.
Right.
And Trump's also said in various places that he wants to end birthright citizenship, which I don't think is his purview. You'd have to change the law. I think you might need a constitutional amendment.
I think you would have to amend the Constitution the way.
But it does bring up something interesting. There is no reason that somebody just being here to work or do whatever should automatically lead to them being able to participate in our elections as a citizen.
That's right.
And even birthright citizenship is a little bit weird. I can imagine two people, man and wife, being here on some sort of a work visa. It's fine with me. And then them having to have a kid. There's nothing intrinsic that means that child should be a citizen of this country rather
Right.
than their country of origin. It's a sort of anachronistic thing. And I'm pretty sure we only have it in the Constitution to try and make a safe legal environment for former slaves. I believe that's the whole reason we did that. It certainly wasn't an immigration thing. So I wouldn't mind if that policy was revisited. Trump can't do it unilaterally, but we need to really seriously think about the distinction between where a person is and what their citizenship status is.
Right.
Because we do not favor the tyranny of the majority or the collective or anything like that. We should have fewer people voting, or fewer things that they're able to vote on or something. And there needs to be a large sphere of private action that is not susceptible to politics.
This next one is very similar, but slightly different. So the first one focuses more on deportation, right? And this one focuses on a preventative measure, I guess. So his quote is, "My very first day back in the White House, I will terminate every single open border policy of the Biden-Harris administration, and we will seal the border." Okay, well, you already had your chance to do that 8 years ago. Why didn't you get it done? That's what I didn't understand. Like, well, you didn't do it the first time. Why should I believe you're going to do it this time? Number one. And number two, do you, Adam, favor? I'm on the fence about this one. Whether we should build this big thing, I don't know.
I am not in favor of building the big thing, and I haven't looked at the numbers, but I'm sure immigration was at a reduced rate compared to what it was during the Biden administration. Yet during Trump's first term, it was less than. And there are a whole bunch of procedural things that can be done to make things better. And they've already started just because Trump won. Like Biden's policy was to have people just roll in here and claim asylum status and then just be let into the country,
right?
To wait for a court date many, many, many months in the future that they're just not going to attend. And, that's not good. But already Mexico, I believe, if the reporting I read is correct, they're building facilities to house these people while they wait for their asylum claims to be adjudicated in Mexico rather than just being released into America to do whatever it is that they do. I can't emphasize strongly enough that I'm not in favor of the government deciding, where people should be. I don't think they should control the border. But since we're in that unenvious situation, they have to have some sort of policy.
Right.
And I'd rather one that was more controlled than one that wasn't.
And again, as long as we're just dealing with symptoms, we're never going to solve anything. You don't cure your cancer by taking some aspirin to alleviate the pain, right? And so I've said this before on one of our previous episodes, that I feel like a lot of the immigration problem is actually the fault of the U.S. government intervention policies in South America and Central America.
Yeah.
And I'll be very curious now that it does seem like the Malay train is on the track and things are turning around for the better in Argentina. I'll be very curious to see if Argentina doesn't see an influx of why can't I say the word repatriation from people who've left Argentina back to Argentina over the next couple of years as the economy improves there. So really, the solution is not building a wall. The solution is not, deporting a bunch of people. The solution is fix the economy, or just stop meddling in everybody's business and destroying things, and let the natural economies flourish, and then people won't feel like they have no choice but to leave and go somewhere else.
I totally agree. And one counterintuitive thing that we could do immediately to make these countries places that people would rather stay in than flee is just completely end the drug war in America.
Number one.
Because if that were the case, if drugs were just a thing you could buy, just like Budweiser and Jack Daniels, then they would be provided for by legitimate companies and not psychotically violent mafia figures from south of the border. I
Yeah.
don't think these psychopaths can compete with Budweiser or Tylenol or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of these countries, if reports are correct, are basically captured by these criminal gangs. And we give them a business by creating a black market for them to serve. If there was no black market for them to serve, they'd have to go do something else. I'm not saying that Mexico would turn into just a utopia, but it would be better than having this very, very profitable group of criminals basically running the government. To a greater or lesser extent. It's not zero.
You ever read the novel by the great science fiction libertarian writer L. Neil Smith called Probability Broach?
You have mentioned it, and I still have not read it yet.
Okay, you got to read that one. But there's a scene there. It always sticks in my head. The main character is driving down the road, and there's a billboard that says something like, "Hey, are you feeling a little tired this morning on your way to work? Well, take some cocaine to perk you up in our new formulated dose. Get it at your local store," right? Like so. It would just be like you said. It's just like buying a beer or something. It's like, a lot of the problems that you see with the drug use today is that the drugs are so powerful, strong, they're dangerous, they're laced with crap, rather than, drugs are not good or bad. They're a thing, right? And in the right dosage and in the right prescription or whatever, they can be very beneficial. But because we've outlawed a whole class of drugs, we'll never know the benefits. Like cocaine might be a great thing if you did it the right way. And like, hey, who doesn't need people slam 8 cups of coffee? Is that any worse than, I don't know, doing a little bump of cocaine? I don't know what I'm really getting at here.
I think there are arguments to be made that drug use has positive benefits, but let's just take the conservatives at their belief system, one I largely share, and admit that drugs are probably bad for most people and are generally bad for society.
Yeah, probably.
Making them legal does not automatically mean you're going to get more of it.
Right.
In the last handful of years, the amount of alcohol being consumed by young people in this country is plummeted.
Yeah.
Social norms and mores change as people understand greater what the health benefits of various things are, as things move in and out of fad or fashion. And if you want to get young people to try some drug, make it illicit and make it so that only the cool people are doing it, and the squares and your dumb parents are saying, yeah, you can have, God, I don't want to turn this into a prohibition episode, but you do not make your society more healthy by adding the evils of prohibition on top of the evils of drug use.
Right.
And conservatives need to recognize that.
Yeah. So not to go down that rabbit hole, I would point people to one of the crossover episodes you did with Bob Murphy on this topic. So you guys covered that pretty well. All right. Another one of his day one promises, or whatever. I'm not sure these are all day one, but you get the gist.
Long day.
This is gonna be, and he doesn't take office till 2 p.m. So it's like he's got to do a lot of this stuff in a half work day. Number 3 on the list, we drill, baby, drill. I don't really have a comment on that one way or the other. I don't know what he thinks he's gonna do on day one about that. Executive order this, executive order that, but okay. I mean,
I imagine
I want there to be more whatever, but
yeah, I imagine he could repeal some Biden era executive orders on the subject. And I'm with you. I think we need a whole lot more energy. We need cheaper energy. And right now, fossil fuels is it.
Yeah.
I don't want subsidies for either fossil fuels or gas. I mean, wind or solar or anything else. I want the restrictions to be taken off of nuclear because it is way cheaper and more efficient and safe now. I want the free market to flourish and give us cheap energy. And if that's what he means by drill, baby, drill, I'm all for it. Since it's Trump, I doubt it's going to be that clean. It's going to have some anti-libertarian something in there that we'll take issue with. But yeah, get me cheaper energy. Get poor people in this country cheaper energy,
Right.
because the price of energy affects the price of everything.
Energy is life.
Energy is life.
Number 4, we will end inflation and make America affordable again. Now, I can't even say that with a straight face. Sorry. As we've stated before on this show, the correct definition of inflation is money printing or increasing the money supply.
And that's it.
I saw Trump for 4 years do nothing but print money.
Just to make sure we're addressing what he's talking about, because he doesn't believe that that's the definition of inflation.
Right. He doesn't believe that. Yeah.
A natural result of drill baby drill is to lower energy prices, and therefore the prices of a whole lot of other things, because so much of our economy is touched by energy.
Right.
So if he does do that, you will expect prices to lower in most areas, but still, it is incorrect to use the term inflation or deflation to describe that effect. You're making something cheaper and lowering prices, but inflation is everywhere and always a monetary phenomenon. I will never believe the new regime's relabeling of that term to be just a general movement in prices. That's not what it is, man.
All right. Next one up. I will terminate the Green New Scam and the electric vehicle mandate. Well, not sure he's going to have to do anything about the electrical vehicle mandate. If electrical vehicle sales are plummeting, even with subsidies still in place, nobody wants them. It was they're going the way of the dodo bird. And I will terminate the Green New Scam. Okay, I'm not really sure what that means. The Green New Deal was never put in place. I mean, I don't know.
Is it the case that it didn't pass? I should know that. I don't even remember.
Well, okay. So when Biden did the, what do they call it? Not the Rebuilding America Act. One of those where they did a lot. We're going to rebuild bridges and all that stuff.
Infrastructure, yeah.
The infrastructure thing. Well, in that,
it had a bunch of green
stuff taken from the Green New Deal or related to that, building more solar crap, whatever. So maybe that's what he means, but I mean, that's ship is sailed. The money's already been allocated, and I mean, what are you going to pull it back? I mean, I don't know.
That would be interesting. Well, it wouldn't bother me if he did. I mean, as we just said, I don't want any federal subsidies on any of this stuff. So, and I certainly don't want any new EV mandates.
Yeah.
I wonder if he would try to dictate what the state of California, for example, is able to do.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's like there's no federal EV mandate. So how's he going to end electric vehicle mandates in California? The federal government doesn't have jurisdiction over it, although let's be honest, the federal government can do whatever they can. Do whatever they want.
Yes, they can.
In theory, they don't.
In practice, they definitely do. And I don't know if he would go so far. I am with you. I think the mandates will probably be repealed in California. I don't think EVs are dead. I think there's going to be a place for them, but I think they were hyped way too much too early, and I don't think there's any place for a mandate by either a state or a federal government to make people buy them.
I see hybrids being a popular option, but man, I just don't see the fully electric vehicles as a thing that's gonna.
I think fully electric vehicles are going to get used a lot, just not by the average consumer who likes to take road trips. I think there's tons of short usage use cases for them.
Sure.
Like on plant or maybe in an urban setting where you're not going too far. But
the golf course.
Sure, absolutely. But the thing that Newsom was trying to do was just do a one size fits all for an enormous state, and it's very stupid and very unlibertarian.
All right, next on the list, we will pass massive tax cuts for workers that include no tax on tips. Okay, great. A thumbs up. I got no objection to that. As I am going to get my it's either Milton Friedman or Murray Rothbard who said I'm in favor of any tax cut at any time for any reason. So even though it's not maybe an abolition or an abolishment of all taxes, give me whatever tax cut you can. I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree, and I'm in favor of all taxes being cut. But if you don't have a cut in government spending, you're not solving the big problem. We're 36 trillion in debt as a country, and if you don't solve the spending, you know, I mean, depending on where you're at on the Laffer curve, it's theoretically possible you could cut taxes and have an increase in tax revenue generated.
Right.
I don't think we're at that point.
No.
And Trump he's making contradictory promises, right? I mean, he's promising to create Doge and then take on government waste, and you would assume that part of that is to reduce government spending in an attempt to take on the debt. But I think he's just saying things. I think he's just saying things to get elected, and who the heck knows what he's going to do. I don't think he's going to do anything about this one. I think he's going to find some excuse to let the Democrats win, and nothing will change as far as taxation.
Next, I will revoke China's most favored nation status. Okay. I don't. Again, we shouldn't have any favored nation status, right? We're free traders, right? We're just like let companies buy and sell goods between countries or whatever. So okay, that's fine. I don't know. What are your thoughts on revoking China's most favored nations?
I am not in favor of any trade agreement conducted by governments that's managed trade. I want genuinely free trade.
Right.
I'll refer the listeners to Haman Nature episode number 75, a crossover one with Bob Murphy, where we talk about tariffs quite a bit. It's not. This doesn't have anything to do with the China thing specifically, but I mean, there's an argument to be made that he's using the threats of tariffs to try and get other countries to lower tariffs. Maybe the history of what he did in his first administration was a little all over the place.
Yeah.
There's a national defense argument that is sometimes made, like we're going to use tariffs to protect industries that are critical to national defense.
Sure.
But if that's the case, you're just using the wrong tool. If it's truly that important to national defense, then you outlaw the purchase of such components from any outside industry. Raising a tariff isn't what we're talking about. So yeah, I hate tariffs. I think we should learn from the 20s and 30s that tariffs can exacerbate depressions. They can even cause them. They hurt people by eliminating their first choice or taxing it out of existence. And whatever revenue is generated is only going to the government. And what do they do with our money? They waste it and give it to foreign nations for no good reason.
And remember what Hayek told us, where goods do not cross borders, soldiers will.
Yeah, we don't make ourselves better by being a true isolationist and not trading with the world. We should be trading with everybody, and the government shouldn't have anything to say about it. It's just not their business.
It just as a fun, this just cracks me up. I'm sure you saw that Biden just forbid that sale of the U.S. steel to Nippon Steel Industries for one reason, for national defense reasons. Last time I checked, Japan wasn't a threat. What national security threat is Japan?
Well, it's not that Japan's going to go to war with this. I mean, we can steelman their argument. Their argument is
you could steal. It's just
like U.S. Steel
ridiculous. Do you remember we beat them in a war and bombed the crap out of them?
Well, no,
and now we buy all their cars. I don't know.
The argument is, and you can make this very serious. I don't know the case of it, but let's just say U.S. Steel is the last steel manufacturer in this country. And then we sell it to Japan, and now U.S. makes no steel. And a decade or two passes, and we get into a big war, and all of a sudden we need a whole bunch of steel. And for one reason or another, Japan doesn't want to give it to us. Maybe they have a defense contract with the country that is attacking us. Maybe it's China or something.
Sure.
I mean, you can make national security arguments.
Of course.
They can't be just mocked out of existence. What they have to be defeated with better arguments.
Sure. My better
let's abolish
argument
the nation state altogether.
My better argument is, I've lived in Japan for a couple of years. They're not They're not our enemies. Trust me, it's gonna be okay.
I'm not worried either. And also, I didn't look at the terms of the deal. I didn't realize there was a deal on the table until I heard that Biden stepped in and vetoed it, which I don't
And
think he's got the
and by
power to
what
do.
right does a president
But
get
hold
to
on.
veto? I mean,
But hold on. I don't think the plan was to dismantle the factory and truck the factory all over to the island of Japan so that they could make it there and then sell it back to us.
that's right.
I think it was a change in ownership and
Ownership.
management.
Yep.
So if we were ever actually in a wartime
just-
emergency, we would just take that thing back
You
immediately.
just nationalize it. Yeah.
You just nationalize it.
And a lot of the workers of the plants were in favor of the deal.
I'm not surprised.
Anyway, forget people being able to make their own choices with their own property, Adam. The president gets to tell us what to do. Next on Trump's list that he's going to accomplish in day one, I will pass the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act. Man, this guy is an economic genius.
He's a deal maker.
That means that if China or any other country makes us pay a 100 or 2% tariff or tax, we will make them pay a reciprocal tariff or tax of 100 or 200% immediately, right back. Wow.
Yeah. Well, there's no need to comment any further.
I don't even know what to say.
I don't want managed trade, and I don't think Trump is as great at making deals as he says he is.
Watch that crossover episode Adam mentioned he and Bob did about tariffs. Okay, next on the list, shortly after regaining the Oval Office, I'm going to make it square. Shortly after regaining the Oval Office, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled quickly. Okay. I hope so. Yeah,
fingers crossed. I don't think he has any particularly unique levers to pull in that regard. I think I can't remember if we've mentioned it on the show before. The only thing he could offer that's new is the fake because. Like if it is the case that all members of this conflict are actually tired of the war, but they don't want to just admit it for some reason, like Ukraine doesn't want to just accept that they're going to lose 20% of their country, the Donbass region, where primarily everyone speaks Russian, and Crimea. Maybe they want an end to the killing, but they don't want to. They need a fake because, they need a fake reason. And Putin could be in the same spot. Maybe Trump could come in and give them a fake reason to end it. Terms that neither one wants to. But I think Trump is good at doing real estate deals. I don't think he understands geopolitics.
No. And also, again,
I wish him well, but I don't believe it.
But also, again, what business is it of an American president settling a war between two other countries?
Oh, you sweet summer child. What business indeed? Except it has been our business for these last 100 years.
All right. Number 10, I will prevent World War III. Great.
Sweet.
Cool. Awesome.
Why didn't anyone else think of that?
Next, I will restore peace through strength. Well,
brilliant.
You know what that means? So that's code for Trump's just going to fund the military, whatever they want, and billions and trillions of dollars, because we got to build those ships and Space Force and more military.
It cuts back to the other thing we were talking about. I mean, how can he be serious about DOGE or reducing the deficit or cutting spending when we know he's going to have an open purse string for the military?
Right. Let's see. In my next term, we will build a great Iron Dome missile defense shield over our country, a dome the likes of which no one has ever seen before, and it will be entirely made in the USA.
Speaking of military boondoggles for things that don't work, anybody remember Reagan's Star Wars program?
Hell yeah, man.
Missile defense program. By the way,
was the best thing penicillin ever cured for me.
That's a good one. And the only other place in the world where we think of an Iron Dome is the one that protects Israel. And as both Iran and the Yemenis recently demonstrated, The Iron Dome is quite porous to
Yeah.
modern missiles. We have hypersonic ones now, and even back in Reagan's day, the thing that is required to completely protect yourself from to have a missile defense system
Mhm.
is to be able to hit an oncoming bullet being fired from a gun with a bullet coming from a gun of your own.
Mhm.
It's near impossible. It's a very, very difficult thing to do, and I think this is just a boondoggle.
And again, this is very 20th century way of thinking.
Yeah,
This is not the way anyone's going to fight World War III. It may be the way it ends, but it's not going to be the way it starts. It's going to be a cyber war.
for sure.
I
And
mean,
even if you manage to, create something like an Iron Dome, well, that would just mean they think of a different way to get the weapon to you.
right,
Submarines with really, really short
right,
trajectories.
right.
Like Scud missiles running really, really low cruise missiles. You can't
Why,
shoot all that stuff
why,
down.
why launch all these weapons when you can just sneak in some cells, some groups of nefarious actors, let them lay in wait for a few years, and then do something to, what is it? Something like 12 power stations, basically located in strategic areas around the country, can knock out the entire grid or something like that. I mean, like, you knock out
Well,
electricity in the country for 3 days, and that's it. We're all killing each other for food, man.
it's actually even worse than that. Again, don't quote me, but based on reporting I have read from seemingly credible sources, our government admits that China and other bad actors have already infiltrated
Mm-hmm.
our nation's power structure,
Yeah.
power grids, and could turn it off in the flick of a switch. And I would just hope that our cyber criminal government has also done the same thing to them, so it
Mm-hmm.
turns into a mutually assured destruction sort of thing. But yeah, governments are always trying to win the last war or
Right.
protect us from the last attack,
Right.
leaving us less wealthy because we spent all that money and
Mm-hmm.
just vulnerable to the other trillions of ways that people have for
Yeah.
attacking us.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the right way to think about these things.
All right. Trump says, I will not cut one penny from Social Security or Medicare, and I will not raise the retirement age. Okay. Well, that's not exactly something he's going to do. It's something he's not going to do. So, okay, I guess if he does nothing, then he keeps that promise. All right. Well, again,
So
we're not
yeah,
really in favor of that. It makes no sense.
how is he going to pay for it
Yeah.
while
Well,
simultaneously lowering costs for everybody and reducing inflation
he won't.
and
He won't.
taxes and lowering taxes?
Again, he won't have to worry about it. He will be out of office before that bill comes due. So,
Or if you're right, he won't have to worry about it because he won't get seated in 2 weeks.
well, yeah, right. No, I think the latest projections is 2032, 2033. Social Security will just not be able to print checks anymore. So they governments are great at letting things float and get by until it just stops working. So,
Oh, and by the way, that's only through the government's crooked accounting
mhm,
system that
sure,
the system has 12 more years before it's broke. As
yep,
I look at the debt clock that Thomas I bought from Thomas Massey, can you see it? Yeah, here it
yep,
is.
there it
Yeah,
is.
we're the U.S. government, who funds Social Security and Medicare, is $36 trillion in debt, with an extra trillion being added to every 100 days.
Hmm.
That sounds like a system that's already broke to me.
Yeah, no, there's no fixing this. So why, if you're a politician, would you ever try? It
Right.
can't be done. We have crossed the Rubicon on this one, folks. There is no fixing it. All right, next on his list, I am going to keep you out of wars. Well, good, thanks. I don't want to go fight a war.
Again, if only somebody else had thought of that. You know what's goofy? That's just an empty platitude. The same was, I won't get us
Mhm.
into World War III. I'll end these
Right.
wars. And yet, our choices are usually so corrupt and beholden to various other foreign countries and the military-industrial complex itself, and neocons who have some ideological belief in the thinking that making war is somehow making us more peaceful, that we're thrilled when Trump comes along and says the idiot
Right.
6-year-old thing.
Right.
And we're like, well, that's better than starting wars on purpose, I guess.
Yeah. Well, as I recall, another Republican presidential candidate said something similar. George Bushy Jr.
Mm-hmm.
also ran on a
A
we're not going to
humble
get
foreign
into
policy with
humble foreign
no
policy.
nation building.
That lasted all of 9 months. Next on his list, we have people at the top of the military that are woke, and they're all gone. We are going to get rid of them so fast.
I mean, it does not fill me with a sense that I'm being protected by the greatest military in the world when I see some tranny there in uniform.
Yeah.
I gotta say.
I mean that's fine, and that's all good, and the military will be just happy to go along with that. They just go along with whatever political policy funds their coffers, so they don't care. The
But
generals
let's
at the top don't care.
after just mocking the people who were actually encouraged that Trump said that, let me defend MAGA. I don't like woke for its own reasons, but if you're interested in having a military that is as capable as it possibly can be, then if you make your hiring and promotion decisions based on anything that isn't military war making meritocracy, you are by definition making your military weaker than it otherwise would be. That's just math. And so, yeah, it's worse than it's just annoying. It does make you wonder when you see, the Chinese military videos of that, or the Russian military. It does make you wonder how ours would do when things actually got into crunch time, when, we're promoting based on diversity and just how queer friendly you are and how many letters of the alphabet come after LGBT XYZ. Again, if you're not promoting and recruiting and training to just be lethal killers, then you're not making an army.
I
You're
think
doing something else.
Yeah, I think the diversity thing is overblown and overplayed. To me, it's a little bit of window dressing and just political theater. I think the real issue has been that no one's ever going to talk about or address is that we've had 100 years of public education making people so dumb that now we have a military filled with just people who could barely graduate high school. And I mean, there have been some reports done that like the infrastructure to repair naval ships is so broken down that nobody knows how to do it anymore. Like if our military actually got in a real conflict with any real military, not just pushing over some paper tiger like in Iraq or Somalia or something like that, we would collapse instantaneously overnight. So it's our
Well, yeah,
military is
there have
broken
been
from the core, and it has been for a long time.
there's been numerous battlefield simulations, talking about what if we ever had to decide to try and defend Taiwan, say militarily, from a Chinese invasion. All of our aircraft carriers in the region get sunk in less than 10 minutes
Gone.
because we are geared up to fight World War II again.
Yep. Or
maybe
Vietnam or
Vietnam.
something like that.
But yeah, we can't project power in the way that we think we can. But the DEI thing, the woke thing, the diversity thing is a real problem, because you got to remember, for an all voluntary military that requires recruits, you need to have some patriotism from the people that are the lifeblood of your grunt force. And those are relatively poor rural white kids mostly. And if you're actually advertising all the time, talking about how crappy they are and how you'd much rather have something that's much more diverse, well, you'll get exactly what we saw. Very, very low recruitment numbers. And you can run all the DEI diversity pro ads that you want, but if you get into war, you actually need people to show up and
but
aim
Adam,
projectile weapons at the opposing side.
But Chuck Schumer has already figured out the solution to this. You just take all the immigrants, you make them soldiers, give them citizenship.
Is that Chuck Schumer? He's got a 2-year plan of a citizen warrior to
He
warrior pathway
proposed
to
that. He
citizenship.
proposed that on the Senate floor in one of his speeches. But
You know what's funny? As dumb as that sounds, it's kind of how the old empires used to do it. You know, they
oh yeah, sure. The Romans, sure.
yeah,
They
they
would. Mhm.
get some slaves basically and just put them at the tip of the spear to be cannon fodder. And
Right.
well, good job, Schumer.
But also it's one of the reasons why the Roman Empire did fall apart is because in the end those soldiers didn't have loyalty to the Roman
Right,
Empire,
exactly.
right? So you turn our military into a Spanish speaking force from that came from another country just a few years ago. They haven't, like you said, do they have any patriotism
Yeah.
for America? So
I mean, this is fictionalized depiction of the Battle of Thermopylae, but that great Frank Miller movie 300 kind
mhm,
of shows it to you a little bit. Got this tiny force of very dedicated patriotic soldiers, and they fight off, they've got terrain-based tactical advantages, but another advantage that they had was that Xerxes was leading a Persian army that was massively comprised of conscripts, people that didn't want to be there at all. They're only marching forward because they'll get impaled
right.
by their commanders behind them.
Mm.
That is not a very effective army.
Next on his list, we are going to rebuild our cities into beacons of hope, safety,
Dickens.
and beauty better than they've ever been before.
I'm sure
Oh,
that campaign promise came with a whole bunch of detail.
and not increasing government spending at all, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, that's just the thing. That's just the thing to say. He's not going to do anything about that.
We will take over the horribly run capital of our nation and clean it up, renovate it, rebuild it. Okay, that
I
seems like
see. This
the same.
was a real estate plan the whole time.
It's just a real
The whole
estate.
real estate gambit.
He's flipping.
I get it now.
He's flipping properties.
He's going to flip DC.
The White House is going to have a for sale sign on it. 16 bedroom, whatever it is. Okay. I will sign an executive order that cuts federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto the shoulders of our children. Now, at first glance, you and I could probably be on board with that. But then again, you get to these fuzzy things. Any other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content. And then again, who gets to define what inappropriate is?
Well,
right?
dude, the problem with that sentence is it is about 4/5 too long.
Mm-hmm.
How did it start again?
I will sign an executive order that cuts federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory.
You should have ended that, put a period after school. Just
There you go.
end federal funding for all of
Yes.
it, and then we don't have
Yes.
to make these decisions about
That's
what's
right.
appropriate and what isn't. Why in the world is the federal government funding schools anywhere?
Let the
It's
consumer
madness.
decide let the parents decide what they want their children to learn. If they want to send them to a school that teaches that kind of philosophy, great.
Yep.
You pay for it.
Amen.
Anyway, whatever. Next on his list is I will defund any school that has a vaccine or mask mandate. Okay, fine. Again, same comment. Stop funding it in the first place.
Stop that sentence right after school.
And just let the market figure out. There'll be people that want to send their kids to schools that require it, and there'll be people that don't want to send. Then you'll have two types of schools or multiple types, whatever. I will keep men out of women's sports.
Agreed.
Okay. Great. Again, I'm not sure how that's on the purview of the federal government or the president, but
it is though, because it starts with Title IX in the colleges.
Well, no. I'm speaking theoretically, of course, but again, I'm going back to the two wrongs don't make a right. Yes, government's involved with it all because of Title IX and all the laws we passed, but continuing to get involved or getting involved more is not the right approach. The right approach is stop funding it. Right? Next, I will fully uphold our Second Amendment. Sure, you will.
Like the bump stocks?
Like the bump stocks, exactly. next one, we will protect innocent life. So this is an abortion thing. I don't know what he could do. The Supreme Court already. I mean, I don't know what he has in mind with that one. Again, just sort of pandering to the Christian right or that side.
I mean, we hope he doesn't mean it. He's saying a couple of different things, right? On the one hand, judges that he appointed repealed Roe versus Wade and kicked us back to the states, where, in my view, it belongs. But his base wants him to implement a national ban on abortion, which I do not want him to do. So he's speaking out of both sides of his mouth by saying we will do everything we can to support innocent life. No, he won't. I hope.
If that's what he means, then yeah, yeah. So far, we're not too enthusiastic about this list, Adam.
Compare it to Kamala Harris's list, and we look very enthusiastic.
Couple more to go. We will restore very quickly free speech.
Okay.
As long as it's on Truth Social, I assume.
I assume we'll ban everything else, right?
And then finally, I will secure our elections. Now, this one I could be on board with. If you are going to have a government, if you are going to have federal elections, I really am in favor of having some, rules in place to make sure the elections are running properly. Now, is fraud that big of a problem? I don't know. I mean,
yeah, it is.
It is? Okay.
Yeah, it is.
You think it is? Okay.
Yeah, it starts and ends with the voter rolls that are completely wrong. I mean, I don't know how in 2020, my little section of the cul-de-sac got 6 ballots sent to the various houses. We all were comparing notes. 6 ballots were sent there by people who were dead, had moved away, and in one case, it was literally the man's pet. Got a ballot. So if ballots, if presidential elections are the most important thing ever, as we've been told every 4 years for the last 20 years,
most important thing ever.
Then with extra ballots floating around, they're going to be used fraudulently one way or the other. It's inevitable. Mm-hmm. And exactly how big that problem is, I don't know, but the races are always pretty tight, right? You don't need a whole bunch in particular swing counties, in particular swing states to flip an election. And again, trillions of dollars are at stake with these things. Our system is as corrupt as the day is long, and it's ideologically poisoned with one side. Each side thinks the other one is literally going to end democracy. So you don't think there's cheating going on? Of course there is. And I am of mixed feeling about the feds getting involved, because while they obviously have an interest in making it fair, and certainly some states the system is not fair to one degree or another, I don't know if having a unified system is going to make it better or worse. Do I want 50 things that can be corrupted, or do I want just one thing that can be corrupted? I'm not sure which is the safest thing. So again, I just say abolish the nation state and have all associations made by humans be done voluntarily. No need for elections.
Right. All right, Adam. Well, this episode is gone a little longer than normal. It's been great and fun to go over this. However, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, this article came out quite a while ago, speaking in relative political season terms, and Trump has said a whole bunch of other stuff since then. Most recently, he came out in favor of capping credit card interest rates at 10%. Now, this really, we can go off on this one and talk about economic theory, just really exposing how Trump just is an economic illiterate.
Well, don't give away the game, Tyrone. We're already at the witching hour. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about Trump's proposal to cap interest rates on credit cards at a bonus episode of Haman Nature that will be available to subscribing members at hamannature.substack.com. So if you want to hear Tyrone and I really dig into this proposal and the economic truths involved and the knock-on effects for every member of this here polity, please become a paid subscriber over there at hamannature.substack.com, and you will hear us tear President Trump a new butthole.
I don't want to do that.
Not a new one, but it's in the wrong place.
All right. Well, we'll do something. We'll tear it up for sure.
We're going to tear him a new something. All right. Thank you, Tyrone. This was fun. I can't wait to see what Trump does or doesn't do. We live in a madhouse and things are fascinating. We will catch you next time. Thank you ever so much for watching and or listening to Haman Nature.